also the radio.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners to order. Can you hear me now? All right. I'd like to welcome everybody and say that we're proud that you chose to come this way. This is our regular meeting, and we'd like to welcome you. First of all, do we have any announcements? Mike or Derek, do you have anything? Ron, hey? Ron? I would like to just recognize Commissioner Beal went this past week to the Cambridge Institute of Leadership. He was one of 23 chosen to attend this in Washington to spend a week learning about being a better county commissioner, I suppose.
It was a good week. Yeah, it's very interesting to meet all these people from across the nation, seeing how their local governments work with some of them much different than North Carolina. And anytime you go to anything like that, it's mostly about the people. But I stayed in class more that week than I did in the last 2 years of high school. So. But it was really interesting, and I appreciate the opportunity to go, and with the hope that we learn something to better serve the people that we need to make y'all know this and everybody. Yeah. So thank you.
Did you learn something?
We tried to. Yeah. We did. I learned a lot. It was very good.
All right. Any other announcements? I've got I guess a point of personal privilege. We've got a young man here tonight that doesn't know I'm going to do this, but the county commissioner would like to recognize. We've got a guy named Dakota Holland. Dakota, would you stand up? I probably wondered why all your folks came with you tonight. Dakota is a student, 8th grade student at Union Academy. Earlier this year, during the bus ride home, he was faced with a situation that required him to act quickly. On the bus ride home, a younger student fell out of her seat and busted the back of her head. Was bleeding. Dakota heard her crying in the back of the bus, got up from his seat to see what was wrong. As soon as he saw she was hurt, he picked her up, carried her to the front of the bus. Without hesitating, Dakota took paper towels and applied pressure to the cuts on the young girl's head. He took care of the girl from Rose Creek, where the accident happened, when the school bus reached Olive Valley School. Once the bus got to the school, his leadership continued. While the school bus driver took the girl to meet the school nurse, Dakota stayed behind to keep an eye on the younger kids and make sure they behaved so the adults could take care of the girl. So he went, in our opinion, above and beyond and showed great character. And he is hoping to pursue a career as an EMT when he gets older to continue helping others. So we thought it would be fitting to recognize him tonight. We've got a very small gift for you. This is I guess you call it a picture. It's the flag of Macon County that says special thanks to Macon County Board of Commissioners.
Mom, good.
Have a look at Mom.
You got the top of Matt Mason's head.
Mr. Tall Man there.
I get a copy of that to stick on the side of the bus.
And then the
It was my bus.
You were driving the bus. Do you have anything to add to what I said? Was that accurate?
He did. We heard her crying, and go to get up and see what's wrong with her, and he did everything. He cut towels and things like that. Did a good job.
That's the kind of stuff we need to hear about. So Dakota,
Turn this way.
One more picture.
Am I in your way?
No, you're good.
Look over there.
What's your last name?
This cannot be used in any kind of campaign. No relation to Robbie.
Hey, in a few years, if you need to borrow some signs, just give me a
Thank you, Dakota. And we have a fairly long meeting. You're welcome to stay for the rest of it, or
Stay safe in the storm tonight, people.
Yeah, she was perfectly fine, and just to let you know, about a week after she did that, after all this saying, sit down, sit down, sit down. First thing the mom said, let me look, sit down, and that's exactly right. Week later, she's still up again and didn't say that. But she-
Thank y'all for coming. Thank you, guys.
See you, Ken.
All right. Let's stand, we'll observe a moment of silence, and Vice Commissioner Higgins, he leads the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As was noted in our announcement for the meeting tonight, this is our, we will have a public hearing on the 2014-15 budget. So at this time, Mr. Attorney, I guess we properly declare the hearing session. And I said a moment ago, we did not have anybody sign up to speak to the budget. Do we have anyone here who came in late, or perhaps just didn't get signed up and wants to speak to the budget? Okay. Do we have anybody else? Derek, you have any?
Would it be changes that were made to the original recommended budget based on the recommendations from the May 31st work session?
Sure. Would it proper do that in, if we got here?
Entirely appropriate. It's a function that you vote, discussion, and debate.
Okay, let's do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Board. Like I said, I'll just give you a brief summary of the recommendations that came from our May 31st work session and some of the adjustments that were made to the budget following those recommendations by the Board. If you'll look here is an analysis, and we've looked at these since we began, but it shows fiscal year 12 through fiscal year 15 and what would be the approved budget if no other changes are recommended. As you can see here, the original recommended budget was $45,521,122. With the changes that were made, we saw an additional $200,000 increase to the budget and roughly a $200,000 decrease to the fund balance. The recommendations that stemmed from the May 31st work session were perimeter fencing around the detention center. I have another slide that will highlight that, and the sheriff's here. If he wants to speak to that, he may do so on the next slide. With the realization, and I think the chairman alluded to the fact that some of the schools we built, the new schools, they're getting some age on them. 14, 15 years. These schools have been built and provided first-class education facilities to our children. But in that 14 years, there are many capital needs that have gone unmet. And with this additional $100,000, we feel the school will be able to make more of those capital improvements to the facilities. If you'll recall, the one-time appropriation to the REACH facility, they had asked the county for $50,000. We have put a recommended $30,000 to give to this facility that will provide a service not only to residents of Macon County, but across the region, much needed.
Derek, you might want to note there, those weren't discussion, Jackson County has put up, I believe,
25.
25,000.
Yes, sir.
For that, and this is for a match. I think they have to match dollar for dollar.
Yes, sir.
It's a one-to-one match. They're trying to raise $300,000, and the facility is going to cost $600,000.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The community care clinic, we originally had budgeted 0 in that line item. However, we came back and put $15,000 in there to assist them with the operations at that clinic. For SEC, as you'll recall, the original amount requested was $438,000, give or take. We removed $200,000, which was going to the operating expenses at the Jackson County campus. SEC brought us a proposal on May 31st that indicated $66,000 of what we were spending in Jackson County was coming back across the mountain to Macon County. However, we took a pretty close look at that and analyzed that a little bit further, and we feel that we can get that number on down to 39.4 and still be able to continue partnering with Jackson County and receiving services that do come back to Macon County from them for this amount. If you'll recall last year, the purchase of Zachary Park in Highlands, with that purchase we have seen operating expenses and the need for operating expenses in the Highlands Recreation Department increase. Therefore, we have recommended an additional $5,000 to go to Highlands Recreation for the upkeep and operating expenses at that park, which comes to $200,000.
Mr. Chairman, can you go back just one little correction on REACH? That is actually, the cost is about 1.2.
Yes. The 600 would be the match, yeah.
Yeah, and they have, and through,
But they're raising $300,000.
yeah, they have to raise a portion of 300 for that.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is the jail facility. If you'll look here, this is what the Sally Port, this is where prisoners are brought into the jail. This is where the most recent escape from the jail happened, was out of this Sally Port. And the $10,600 that we're recommending go to the Sheriff's Department for this fencing improvement will prevent future escapes like that from happening. And Sheriff, if you would,
God, I hope so.
go over that a little bit and what you intend to do maybe in this area right here.
And I know the press may not oblige me by what I'm about to ask, but I don't mind if you look at this screen, but the next screen for any recordings or photos that you take, I would ask that you not do it on the next screen, because basically what I'm going to do is show you exactly where they got out. And so for public safety, I would ask that you not show that picture if you would not. But right here is the Sally Port. And go ahead and flip to the next picture and we'll come back.
Sure, those are the only.
Oh, okay. Right here is where the van actually backs up, and every morning and every evening, inmates and the detention officer end up getting the meals. After they get the meals, they take them inside. That's where they come back out and they clean everything. That's that right there. If you're standing on that, you're looking this way. And so our goal is to completely cage in from right here back all the way up to the roof to where they can't get out of that completely. It's completely chain link fence all the way to the top with a 6-foot door and an entry door that's padlocked. The only time that will be open is when a detention officer comes out and somebody is being arrested and brought into the facility. They'll have to walk out to here and take that individual, go back in, take them back inside. The other part of the funding that we're asking for will also put additional wires around the top, both here, all the way across here, back down here, And then this fence right here that you see is actually this fence. And wires all the way, Constantine wire, all the way across there. Right here is the actual spot that the inmates escaped from. They were out in about 20 seconds. An inmate was brought in by an individual officer from another agency, and while that officer, the detention officer was dealing with that individual, they used a spray bottle, a plastic spray bottle, and they climbed up on this thing, which is actually the motor for the gate that's opening right here. And they climbed up on that, got up on this fence, and then pulled the Constantine wire down and then scaled it. They were over in about 15 seconds. And then gone. That's what we're asking to. It's what we asked for last year, and budget restraints, we weren't able to get that. So we've asked this year for us to not put it off another year. Long-term goal, I won't deny it. Long-term goal, what we'd like to do in the future is to extend this roof out, just the roof, all the way out to the Sally Port. To that Sally Port entry. That way, rain, shine, whatever, you pull in there, you're undercover. There's just absolutely no way out whatsoever. And that way, because if you approve this money and we fix it, then no matter what kind of weather it is, and it sometimes takes a few minutes to get an individual out of the vehicle, then they're going to be out in that weather, the officer getting that individual, and not under any kind of shelter.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
The funding of these additional recommendations, I think, is noteworthy. As you'll see, these recommendations, if you will recall, at the May 13-15 budget year, $500,000 to go towards funding the Parker Meadows project. In the recommended budget, that actual allocation was only $366,642 out of fund balance. This $133,358 difference, of course, came from reduction in expenditures. We saw our debt service go down substantially, and an increase in sales tax. So really, right off the bat, we were $133,358 to the good on that appropriation.
And we had already, that money was already out, that's no new money. That
Right,
money was already
right.
there.
The board had voted to appropriate $500,000. We knew that going in. But when our budget turned out with the reduction in expenditures, the roll-off of debt, and the increase in sales tax, that $500,000 reduced to $366,642, leaving a difference of $133,358. So we know going into next year, we're not going to appropriate another $500,000 for a Parker Meadows project. That project will be completed. In addition to that $133,358 to fund these recommendations, we had budgeted for the molar roller renovations $68,000. But this was budgeted in operating expenses. In other words, in trying to keep that fund balance at the level we were at, we said we will appropriate this in the operating budget, and we were unable to do that for the same reasons I just mentioned. So if there's anything that you can look in any school of government textbook, a textbook fund balance expenditure is a substantial expenditure that has an extended lifespan. In other words, it's not something that's recurring year after year. And Jim, I think we had talked about it, the motor roller, once we do these renovations, that's good for 10 years, 5 to 10 years. So it's not something we're going to be faced with every year. So we decided to move this and appropriate this money out of fund balance, which freed up an additional $68,000 in our operating budget. And again, the motor roller will not be appropriated next year. So what we had by doing this was $201,358 in additional operating, and if you'll recall, these recommended changes total $200,000. So what is that representative of? It's representative of we can still make these changes. We're able to make these recommended changes and still continue to fund them out of our operating budget year after year after year. We're not hitting the fund balance. These are expenses again. just like the recommended budget, that are representative of what we can afford to do in our operating budget year after year, simply because this $500,000 and the $68,000 out of fund balance will not reoccur every year. The last change, if you will recall, Mr. Cade came to us, EMS director, and spoke of the need for 2 full-time employees. And furthermore, he also added the shift supervisor duties to 4 employees. So each shift would have a supervisor on duty, somebody that could answer questions, and the go-to guy on that particular shift. We were able to do this by, he had originally appropriated $125,000. Again, we took out of our operating expenses to fund an ambulance. And Mr. Cade came at that meeting, and I think he made clear, our needs are not an ambulance. We need additional employees. We need 2 more people so we can make the 6A to 6P truck, right now the day shift truck, to a modified 24/8 schedule. And he has got with myself and our commissioner liaison, Mr. Tate, and done a great job, and even provided the explanation and justification for this at our May 31st meeting. And I think it's very clear that that is needed. We did, in doing this, it was actually $126,438, but Mr. Cade was able to go back in there and find that $1,438 in uniforms. So what we have done there is it's no extra money for the county. It's just like it was with that ambulance in there, although we've got the employees that we needed. And the questions came up, and a couple of people have asked the question, well, how do we fund the ambulance next year, if the ambulance need comes up next year? That's something that we've thought about, and just preliminarily going through the budget. As I mentioned in my presentation during the budget message, I think we can do some things next year, and as we work going into the next fiscal year with the performance measurement, with a capital improvement program, some things that the county can really accrue some savings on, and I'm confident in that. But just looking right off the bat, I can tell you right now that rough numbers, I think it was $107,000 to fund that ambulance last year. That's what Lori and I had ran across today and looking at it. Well, if you take the $10,600 from the fence, the $27,000 that went to the soil and water conservation 4-wheel drive vehicle, that's going to be good for 10 years. They won't need another truck for a while. You take that, you take the renovations to the Nantahala Fire Department base that have been included in the EMS budget this year. Those will go away. That's $20,000. We had a radio communications vehicle, which was also funded this year. That's $28,000. And the REACH facility, which is a one-time construction of $30,000, right there is $115,600. So just at that preliminary glance at the budget this year, we're going to we have obligations this year that we're not going to have next year. And right off the bat, you can see right there's your $107,000, and that's just glancing at it. So I'm not worried about having to fund that ambulance next year. And if the need arises, we will be able to do it, and we will be able to sustain it in our operating budget. The 14-15 budget, and I haven't approved with a question mark, as of course it has not been approved yet, but the recommendations that have been brought forth by the commission at our May 31st work session have been included in here. As you can see, the fund balance position is stabilized, and although it's decreased to 0.5%, you can see that from fiscal year 12 at 42%, and fiscal year 14 we're projected to end at 29. We're right there at 28.5. So we've done what we needed to do. We've set ourselves in a position going into this revaluation that we're financially strong, and it's going to be really beneficial as we head for any unexpectancies that revaluation might bring to us. We've been able to accomplish that and include these recommendations. This is sustainable. The expenditures that have included, as I alluded to earlier, they're operating expenditures. They can be included year after year after year into our operating budget. This budget has no tax increase, and the budget's been reduced. If you look, the budget up for approval containing these recommendations is 1.12% less than the actual expenditures in 12-13. The budget up for approval tonight not tonight, but the budget that we're having a hearing on is 3% less including these recommendations, than the approved budget was for 13-14, and it's 2.5% less than what the actual expenditures projected for fiscal year 13-14. And in doing this, we have been able to continue to provide the same high level of service that Macon County citizens have become accustomed to. And all those are noteworthy points that this budget and things that this budget allows us to accomplish that have been taking these recommendations into consideration that we can do. In closing, the proposed fiscal year 14-15 budget with the recommendations from the May 31st work session included is $721,122. I still have a problem putting on millions in there. But nonetheless, that's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if not, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent job here.
Yes, sir.
Any other, if we don't conduct, does anybody have anything to add or say about the budget before we close the public hearing? All right, Jim, anybody else have anything?
Dick, I appreciate it. You made a great presentation. You presented us with a good budget. I liked it before we added, but I understand that you justified the additions to satisfy the board members. I think you employed an analytical process that's not been used before, but this is a turnaround. The budget's gradually been going up for 5 years, I think, in the charts there, and this is a turnaround. This is going the other way now. There's a question on these pass-through funds. You always hear about pass-through funds. You and I briefly mentioned one time before. Is there some way to tag those for fund? I mean, it's difficult to tag what is the actual budget if you're dealing with, particularly the Jim's baby over there, you know.
Well, I know in some certain, and Jim might be more in it to speak to this than I, but I know that some budgets set up things like the Medicaid reimbursements and enterprise funds. Some counties do that. They do that. They separate those out, but that's about all I know.
So that transformation grant, when we ran it through.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was a $570,000 grant the first year and then $420 the second.
And that sometimes skews your actual hard number budget. County dollars.
And that's not counting what DSS, but they've had to,
Your spare time? It was just, it's like, seriously, what is the actual county numbers that we put in,
Right, and if you look in your budget,
DSS, what county dollars go there.
right, in your budget notebook, if you look, we have provided some charts with respect to the health department and DSS that show exactly how much of their sources of revenue are coming from county contribution. And of course,
general fund revenue sources.
and if you'll compare those, I don't have it in front of me. DSS decreased in county contributions by, what was it, Lori, from 13-14, DSS decreased
DSS decreased, I don't remember the number.
in county contributions. I know that the health department
Went up slightly.
increased slightly by about $20,000 maybe,
The mower roller was
but the
60.
mower roller refurbishment is coming out of county dollars, and that was $68,000. So we were able to take on that and only increase our county dollars to that department by $20,000 in taking on that $68,000 expenditure.
Well, I certainly appreciate what you and the department heads, everybody didn't get what they wanted, everybody kept their job, same level of service, and we all give up a little every day, but I do appreciate you and the department managers that's worked on this. I think it's a good solid number.
Derek, you have done a good job at carrying out what we asked you to do, and I just say for the record, I'm very pleased with the budget. I would point out something you pointed out several times during the process, but I want to say it clearly. one of the ways we've been able to lower the budget this year is the fact that we have some debt service that is rolling off, I believe, about $1.2 million. It's coming off this next fiscal year, and I believe, if my memory serves correctly, we looked at it, about another $800,000 will be coming off the following year, which is going to put us in a fair position, so.
That's the peak. Next year's the peak.
It is, yeah.
And then after
it's just.
that, it really drops.
So it's worth not to spend those savings in respect to the budget.
Right, but what I'm saying, during their primary election this year, there were some figures on that we could increase the county's debt, and that's not true. The county's debt is actually decreasing. I just want to say that very loud and clear. If you have any questions about that, I'm sure we'll do that answer. But our debt is reducing.
Every day that you make produces.
Yes. And, yeah, the only new debt we're taking on really is the park management project, which is reflected in this number. But, and that's really what we're seeing the debt roll off is the school that we built now 14 years ago and 12 years ago and so on and so forth. We're being paid off. So, and there's really not a huge need to spend that kind of money in the foreseeable future. So it does put us in a rather favorable position. So just wondering if anybody had any questions about that.
Times as we comments on some of this stuff that we're adding on, I would like to make a comment or two.
Sure.
Today I met over with the sheriff and looked at the situation that he had to, these two people had escaped. And I'm all for saving every dollar we can, but I think he's asking for a very minimal, is what I saw wrong with that. I would have even went just a little bit farther to say, me and him talked about putting that roof on out through there completely, staging that up too. But, forgetting back, I really appreciate what he said. He said, I know we're tight on the budget, and I'm just trying to get by before we deal with it. But, I'd like to say that what he's asked for is very minimal on that. I think we need to take care of it.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
The only comment or anything, Mr. Chairman, is you know the legislature's still in session. So we got two totally different budgets, one from the House and one from the Senate. So you don't know what that's going to do to the county. We don't know that yet. So the Senate didn't look very good to the county. The Houses look much better.
The Senate version was given about average 11.2% raise. I believe the House version is 5%.
The teachers.
What's that?
Raise the teachers.
That's what I say.
You just said raise.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that they're getting raised and both of them working on it, which is a good thing. I'd love to be able to get more on the lottery funds. I feel like.
That is still alive.
I know, I feel like we're getting robbed, the whole state.
And that's one thing that we, Commissioner Beal himself, with Raleigh, what was that, guys, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that we talked to our legislators about, was the lottery funds. And what they, if you don't know, lottery, when it was first put in, it was supposed to be 40% of lottery funds were to come back to the counties and those that to assist with the capital projects and that kind of thing. And that's been reduced in balancing their budget. And I think we all understand that the state's gone through a recession like everybody else did, so that was one place they got some money with the lottery funds. So the County Commissioners Association, which we're a very active part, has requested that be restored to what it was originally set at, which is 40%. I think it's 20% now. So there's a measure down there, I think they're talking about maybe putting it back to around 30%. And so if they do, that's going to return some money. That part of that money is what we used.
About 400 grand does.
And that can be a lot of their schools still using here.
And we did, we used that money was used in school construction when we were getting more from that. So quite a bit of money, especially for smaller towns like that. Any other comments from the public, anybody on the budget? Okay. vote to do, I just declared it open. Okay, if there's no objection, then we will close the hearing. And while we're talking about that, we do need to meet again in the public hearing discussion tonight. And we have set, I think, the manager has recommended that we meet next Tuesday for the consideration of adopting the budget. However, that's high school graduation. So you're recommending
Monday, if it works for
Let's do it.
it's fine with me. Okay.
That's the 16th.
16.
So just FYI, when we dismiss tonight, we'll actually recess until next Monday at 6 p.m. I'll say, at what time? Takes one season ball game. At 6 o'clock, 5 West Main Street. So, okay.
What's the date on that?
Monday, June 16th. The next item is public comment, and again, we had no one sign up for public comment. Do I change their mind or have a late revelation you want to speak to? Recognize you at this point. If not, we'll move on. Adjustments to the rest of the agenda. This will be the time we can add, delete, or amend anything in the rest of the agenda. Do we have anything to add or delete?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bruckner's here. He's going to discuss some grants that he is applying for. If we could move that to 8B under reports and presentations.
So,
And under new business, if we could, I guess it would be 9F, the discussion of a fire suppression system
under old business,
under new business.
so you want to make that 10.
10, I mean,
That's it.
okay, that's fine. 10G it is.
And that was what there?
The fire suppression system at Cowboy School kitchen.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, there were some questions at the last meeting relative to some appointments. There's just a little bit of information I need to give you when it comes that time of the agenda.
Okay. All right. With those changes, do I hear a motion we approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion.
We don't have a resolution prepared.
Yeah, I think since we
Ordinance,
had,
sorry, yeah, but I don't have the ordinance prepared, and we need to present that to the board.
we do have to do that. Yeah. And then also, I think we had announced we would have a public hearing tonight and have that time period for
Can you go over Boston?
what?
Can you go over Boston?
Yeah. No. All right. Jim's wanting to see a soccer game, I think. Is that right?
We can change the time. We can change the time, Mr. Chairman, if that would help.
Kevin, Mr. Corbett, can I ask a question? Is next Monday's meeting, is that for the purpose of being able to vote for the budget?
Yes.
But not that I have to be here, but I will not be here next Monday. And so I was just curious if it was just simply to
And
be able
that
to
would
vote on
be
the
to
budget.
consider the budget.
So the change in time, that doesn't hold that. I mean, it's o'clock, it's 2 o'clock.
Vote tonight.
Make Wednesday.
That's a church night more. We can, if we make it quick, it doesn't need to be a lengthy meeting. One item.
Okay.
We've got a couple
Okay.
more.
All right, Jim.
Items, really, park is my year.
Okay. But again,
Nothing.
meeting should last long. Okay, we have a motion second to approve the agenda as amended by the county manager. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes and stands as presented, amended. Under reports and presentations, we have the Western North Carolina Teen Institute, and we have Miss Cindy Gay. And I believe her 2 sons to come on this thing. Here with her, so we'd like to welcome, and remind me of your names.
Right. Number 2.
Brian Dakota. Okay. Well,
Two new tokens.
yeah.
Hi, we're from Manahela, and we're from the Teen Institute from Mountain Projects, and we wanted to thank everyone for the money that they gave for us to go to a conference in March at Lake Junaluska. It was a leadership conference about life intentions, and I'd never been there before, and I was a counselor, and when I first got there, it was right near supper time, and all the kids were coming in, they were really excited, and they were spilling their water, and they were making all this noise, and they were just happy to see each other. And then our first speaker got up, because we discussed some serious topics, and it was Dale Gallagher, and he was talking about his son, Connor, who had died from a choking game. And it got very quiet, and they all focused, and they were very respectful, and they listened to his story. And I lost my daughter when she was 16, so I know what it's like. And I could just feel his loss and feel his pain, but he turned his devastation into something positive, and I think the kids really got a message about the choking game, and they would go back and spread it around to their friends and maybe stop another death. We also discussed lighthearted subjects, and we gave the kids with guest speakers and activities tools where they could tackle teen issues when they went back home. A lot of them were very in troubled situations, but they didn't have to just go home and do nothing. They could use these tools, and I thought it was a very helpful seminar. And we also developed these stickers, and I know a lot of the kids have gone around and put these stickers on alcohol products, working with the retailers, and they're supposed to do it in Macon County. And as a parent myself, you do hear stories of people that will help get alcohol for kids under 21. So they're trying to let the parents know, not just the teenagers, not to do this, not to supply it or be a part of it. I think that's a decision we all have to make as parents as the time comes up with our children turning into teenagers. One of my best experiences was just walking with the kids, because I was walking them around a lot between the housing and the food. We got to talk about their personal lives, and they could just open up and tell me stories, and hopefully I could give them some counseling just from all my years of just being a mom and a counselor to them. So it was a very positive experience. We are looking for more funding. We would like to do another seminar for our 5 people from Nantahala to go to Mars Hills, and it would be a total cost of, for 5, it's $1,125, and this is just for the children, not for any adults. It would be for 5 children, and that would be through the Mountain Projects for the Teen Institute. And Brian and Dakota would like to tell you about their experience. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brian Gaddy. I'm a senior in Nantahala High School. I want to talk to you guys just a little bit about my experience with Western North Carolina Teen Institute. I can say as a youth myself, it's not just some people would like to label it as a camp, and it's definitely not. Sure, you've got friends, and you've got nice people, you've got nice food and whatever, but it's more than that. It feels more like a workshop, like a seminar, and it's not just for something to learn that you'll use in a specific area. It's for your whole life. I've seen children come in. I've seen children come into the Western North Carolina Teen Institute, both the regional seminar and the summer one at Mars Hill. I've seen children come in that are very shy, maybe not very, don't feel welcomed maybe, in their school or whatever. And they come in, and we take them in with open arms. And by the end of the week, they've got new friends, and it feels like they've got a new outlook. And this is accomplished just through the great, students, the great youth that we have there, the staff members, the counselors, just everyone's a whole experience, and also the speakers too, like my mother was talking about. The Mr. Gallagher, who came in, did a fantastic presentation. We also had presentations talking just from a variety of subjects, and anywhere from getting enough sleep to how music can improve your life to just being happy. And it's definitely helped my life, and I think that this investment would not only benefit the students that are going, but when they go back. And I've seen this happen in my school. It feels like there's been somewhat of a change, where the kids that come back, it's almost like it's spreading the positivity and spreading doing what's right, and that's staying drug free, and that's staying alcohol free, underage, and overall I just think it's really great.
How many kids were there?
How many kids go?
Well, in total,
I mean, from our area.
From our area?
we had, what, 5 from Nantahala?
You have 5 from Nantahala.
Franklin, that's
We had probably 3 or 4 from Franklin. We're trying to get the numbers up. That's one thing that
We
we're.
get one for that, correct?
it. Yes,
We
we
did.
wanted to thank you for that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
We're trying to get more sponsorship for the summer.
One of my favorite things about the WNC Teen Institute camp, other than the food, is definitely the socialization aspect. It's great to make tons of new friends right from our area, especially that mountain and the way in Macon County. It's kind of hard to make friends across that distance, but WNC Teen Institute really brings them together, and it's such a great program.
Thank you, Coach. Very much.
What age you do go? What age you go to kids?
Anywhere from 6th grade all the way up to 12th grade.
And Brian and Dwight, Dwight goes to Franklin, they're both going to Western, and Georgia Rains is gonna have them be the first 2 at Western to try to continue it into the colleges.
Right. So it'd not only be at middle school, high school level, yeah, it'd be continue it throughout college and trying to grow the program in and of itself.
When is the camp?
The camp is starts
June 16th through 20th.
It's like next week.
yes next week.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else you have here? Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much.
Our county manager, any requests?
I'm going to try and be very quick here. I stuck a packet under your monitor for your perusal later. You don't have to look at it now if you don't want to. But if you remember, 2 years ago, I came before the board about a regional grant called the Community Transformation Grant, which was a CDC grant focused on healthy living, healthy eating, active living, and tobacco-free environment. That grant encompassed Public Health Region 1, which is Macon, Clay, Cherokee, Swain, Graham, Jackson, Transylvania, and Haywood counties. And we locally branded the project as Mountain Wise. And you've probably seen billboards and other things in all of those 8 counties. But most people don't know what that public health project was about unless you were directly involved in one of those focus areas or groups that we did. The problem is that this was Affordable Care Act funding, prevention of public health dollars. And because the Affordable Care Act is going to fix our healthcare system, they pulled all the prevention dollars out of the Affordable Care Act with this budget year. So a 5-year grant went to a 2-year grant, and it ends this September. So the CDC is scrambling to try and figure out how to use other public health prevention dollars that they have to fund some grants to try and sustain some of these projects. The problem is we all have to reapply for those grants. So there's some new funding opportunities. However, I got to admit up front, the turnaround time on some of these is very, very short. So we already had to submit the letters of intent before we came before you guys to ask permission to apply for the grants. But we have not applied for the grants, and we will not apply unless we get approval from you. The 2 new funding opportunities through the CDC, both of them are going to require a letter of support from either the county manager or the Board of Commissioners, and one of them is going to require it from all 8 counties, and one of the CDC grants will only require it from us here. And each county has done it a little bit differently. But the first grant is a state level grant. It's prevention of public health funding to address chronic disease, hypertension, diabetes, and obesity in the region. Public Health Region 1, because of Mountain Wise, was selected. There are 10 public health regions. Because of the way the funding has changed, they're only going to fund 5. There are 50 counties that were selected, 8 in western North Carolina, 42 east of Raleigh. These is a 3-year award. They're going to do 22 state level grants out of the CDC. The grants are going to run anywhere from $4 million to $12 million. North Carolina is applying for the full $12 million, which would mean $4 million annually, or about $400,000 to the region. And Commissioner Higdon referred to our CTG grant before, and I mentioned we averaged about $420,000 a year for the first 2 years. So that's the first grant. The second grant that we'd like to apply, and that is due, the application is due in early July. The second grant is also a CDC grant, but is a regional level grant that we would like to apply for. It's the Partnership to Improve Community Health Funding, and it addresses the same 3 areas as the CTG grant did. Now, these are 8 county regional grants. These are not just Macon County grants. That grant is due in early July. They're going to award to 40 counties nationwide. It's a 3-year grant. Each 3-year grant is what we're requesting if we apply is a $1.5 million grant, which is $500,000 annually. And it'll completely fund the 8-county project that we've been doing now. The third grant, which is a Community Foundation of Western North Carolina grant, which we have already submitted the letter of intent. They've already notified us that they want us to apply for that grant. We have not submitted the final application. That one is in the category of food and farming. It fits within the CTP focus, the Community Transformation Project focus. Access to healthy foods, mountain markets is the campaign. We've been working with a lot of local farmers markets, a lot of local farmers to try and get fruits and vegetables and other things into different areas of the counties. This is due June 12th. It is a $30,000 grant, and it is a 1-year, one-time grant. That grant would come to Macon County, but we'd like to use it for continuation of the Mountain Wise project that is a regional project now. All of these grants, if we get them, the state grant would be passed through money to us. We become the fiduciary agent, just like we've been the last 2 years for the region. The CTG regional grant, we become the fiduciary agent for, and the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina grant, we would become the fiduciary agent for. We are trying
Does
to.
the agent get paid extra?
Who?
Does the agent get any more money out of the grant, being the agent? Do you earn any more out of it?
Actually, yeah, we do. We try and disperse some administrative funding to each county because there is health educator involvement and other things. It ranges about $2,000 of just my salary alone every other month. So, I mean, it's pretty significant to us. It's been a good county savings in the long run. I probably should have written down the total amount that we've gotten, but it's around $2,000 every other month that we draw down in salaries. And then we also get our, I want to say cut, but our portion of it for health education and stuff. We do MOAs with each of the counties, and we disperse funding to them. The majority of funding is spent on the 4 CTG staff, which are regional staff, and we have the counties, the 8 counties separated into sub-regions, so there's 1 person per 3 counties, and there's 1 person for Haywood and Transylvania, since it's a larger population. And there is a page in your sheet, in case you want to ask me any questions, but about what the accomplishments of the grant have been. I had them do this real quick today. It's a 2-pager. It's in your folder there. And you probably heard Mountain Air, Mountain Wise, Mountain Markets. There's about 5 or 6 things that we've done off the branding of this. One of the things that I've recommended to the 8 county health directors is that some of the grant funds that are coming down now are coming down not to local government. They're coming down to anybody that's got a 501c3. So we have actually done an application as a region to form a 501c3 to take the fiduciary responsibility off of the individual counties and put it on that 501c3 so that we're not having to defend this in an audit or anything like that down the road. And then I think we get our fair share just like everybody else does. So just wanted you to be informed. I've tried to keep Derek in a loop as we did the letters of intent, knowing that we weren't going to get to you guys till today. But these things are coming down at rocket speed, and we got to get our letters in there. So, as I said, the 2 CDCs are due in early July, and the other one's in June to 12th. So, that's right. If you need anything or any other information, I'd be glad to come talk to you again.
So you just need our approval?
I just need your blessing to go ahead and move forward and keep going and fill out the applications and send them in.
not a strong supporter of the transformation word or the program, but I'll make a motion to allow them to apply for grants. Those are non-matching grants, right?
These are non-matching, this is no county money in this at all.
Motion by Higgins, second by Hayden. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you for getting
Thank
that
you very
for
much.
Jim. Thank you, out there.
Thanks.
That was all we had under reports and presentations. Under old business, we actually gave go-ahead, I think, on the grading contract for Parker Meadows. I think we need to approve the actual contract. Is that what we're doing, Chester?
Basically, I think what you did at your last meeting was agree to award the bid. We now have a contract that has been presented by Mr. Black, you received that. And I have reviewed that. The contract is in good shape. We had one little minor typographical error that we had to fix.
You need to correct that.
And no, Larry did that.
Good work, Larry.
And then we do have the document actually presented. We are going to need to have a little bit of work done on the payment bond and the performance bond. You'll remember we had a base bid and then we had an alternate that increased it roughly $81,000, give or take. And I think Larry's recommendation was to take that alternate bid. When the bonds got done, they were done for the base bid amount. And so I would recommend that you approve the contract that's been presented by Mr. Larry Lackey for this grading, with the understanding that your approval is subject to proper performance bond and payment bond to the percent.
Mr. Manager, you reviewed that in recommendation to approve. Questions, or do we have a motion to approve that? Okay. Agreed. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. We have a request for approval of the Franklin Area Chamber of Commerce fireworks. I think you guys have seen a copy of that. Just so you know, that does have to be approved by the county commissioners. I'm not sure why that is.
Well, the state law basically says that if you're going to have those displays, that the county needs to check and make sure the display operator holds the appropriate licensing, and they've got the appropriate training, and they've got the appropriate insurance. And so what we
That person's
in the room.
That's it. So what we've done at the request of the county manager, I have put together an application that's designed to take into consideration the statutory requirements as well as a permit. The statute actually says the commissioners are the issue of permit. And so that's what we've done, is prepare an application.
Motion to approve the fireworks on the direction of Michael, as he sees fit.
To approve the permit.
I would like to add too that there's also been a permit submitted for Nantahala.
Yes.
And they have, both the people that will be doing the fireworks at Franklin and Nantahala have provided us with the information needed to satisfy the requirements of this permit application.
My understanding is the county manager strengthened those two applications and prepared actual permits for issuance by the
So are we voting on that?
So you'd be voting on the issuance of those two.
I'll include Nantahala probation in my motion.
You include that second?
But I got one more question. What about Highlands? They done it too, don't they?
I think they're making their application to the county highways these days.
They changed it.
Okay.
Haven't heard from them yet.
If you'll remember, maybe a year ago, they requested authority which the county can grant to the towns to allow them to make their decisions.
Okay.
So, right?
Normally the seating, like where fireworks shows are gonna go at, that's where you get the approval at. So it would be appropriate for Highlands to do.
That's true. And the fireworks display here is not in the city limits.
Correct.
Yeah, the Highlands don't go to the board.
Right.
A little different than when we started, Andy.
Yes, it is.
All right, we have a motion second for approval. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Under new business, county manager has a couple of items to do with the park manager.
Yes, sir. This,
Sean?
the first item, number 10A, I think we need to be clear on that, and Chester can chime in anytime he wishes. This is not consideration of awarding the fencing contract. This is more or less providing you with some information concerning the fencing contract. If you'll recall, and we've discussed, we can't award a bid when we don't have the money in place to totally satisfy it. And as we're continuing to prepare our application to the LGC to get that $1.8 million back, we currently, with our architecture service, engineering services, the maintenance building that we're doing, and the TRC contract, which we're expecting the board to approve tonight, along with that grading contract, we're at $1.339 million. And the total county funds available at this time are the $500,000 appropriated in FY 13-14 from fund balance, the $500,000 appropriated in FY 14-15 from fund balance, and the $500,000 from the Carter grant, totaling $1.5 million. That leaves us with $160,000 available of actually money that we have now that we can spend and award a bid on. The fencing bid came in at $223,719. So as you can see, we're about $65,000 shy of what it will take to go ahead and award this fencing bid. The catch-22 here is that the prices are continuing to go up on this material. The next bid we received, other than this $223,000, is about $100,000 higher. So the quicker and more expedient we can act on this, then the better off we're going to be and be able to be sure that we're getting that price that we budgeted in the overall project. So in saying that, I would like to request, if it be the pleasure of the board, to allow us to go back this week before our Monday meeting. And if you'll recall, we approved in April a reimbursement resolution that we're going to let our county attorney look into that and see the nuts and bolts of that, and if it will satisfy what we're trying to do. And if indeed it does, then go ahead and appropriate this remaining $65,000 from fund balance to the project, to the capital project ordinance for this project, with the realization that we'll be getting reimbursed when we receive that $1.8 million from the LGC. And in doing that, he's going to review that document as well as the process that we use to go about getting this bid. And he's going to review the process, make sure everything's on the up and up, and that he's satisfied with it, and he can indicate that in his opinion letter. And if all that's satisfied, we would like to just give the board a heads up and know that we will be coming back on Monday asking to do that. So that would basically be.
We don't need to vote on that.
No action.
Now.
Just to understand, when will the funding be approved?
July 1st.
When will the LGC actually be?
They think July 1st.
The funds are available after the.
Shortly thereafter.
We have to
We'll
set
have
up
loans
the loan
closed.
closing. But yeah, July 1st is when we'll get our January.
And really, I mean, when they're the work,
Yes or no? There could be a no? Likely no. That would be very surprising. What the fallback option is with an A. Well, and that's the reason that we're not recommending against awarding the bids and entering into contracts until we get a loan closed. And that's the reason. Your plan B would be to reject the bids. Or either come up with an offer.
just to give you some history on that, I asked some questions myself before the county board, what defines the LGC, have to approve what Macon County does. That was put in place by the legislature after the Great Depression, because a lot of counties went through and had debt they couldn't pay, and all this kind of thing. That they came with the recommendation that you have a minimum of that 8% fund balance, so on and so forth. So it's a, I guess the legislature put it in place as a check point for counties to make sure that
Well, and indeed, the practical effect of it has been because of there being some rules and regulations that must be followed at state level, and the state overseeing what the counties and municipalities are doing across the state. The net effect is we have a whole lot less failure, less financial failures of counties and municipalities, but more importantly, cost of money is considerable less than perhaps most states.
And to making sure, as Bill will tell you, the heartbeat, that money's been spent for the purposes allocated. Before you have to track it, you have to track every dollar, so.
Yeah, it's a very serious process that they follow, and they've got some very skilled people there that understand dollars and cents very well. And they will warn you when you get ready to get in over your head.
I'm saying so actually, it was put in place by the legislature sometime in the early 1930s. Any other questions? If not, there, thank you for that presentation. So I guess, so we're not doing B and C.
Well, yeah, we do need to, again, B would just be information concerning the building contract for Parker Meadows. And again, as Chester was alluding to, we did get a bid that we're, as administration, have looked at and are comfortable with $499,500, although it was, the budgeted amount there was $407,000, and it's over what we originally budgeted. We have, Tom has worked his tail off with Seth and Matt and the building inspection department, and we feel that number is representative of what we can do, the buildings that this project for, and the buildings look like that the board intended them to look with the mountain pool and give that atmosphere out there at the bottom dollar.
Just trying to get some general ideas of what things are going to cost. And it's very good faith efforts to get those numbers put together. But I think in the course of doing that, we had to also consider not just the cost of getting the work done, but we have to take performance bonds and payment bonds. Basically, that's an expense that a contractor is going to incur, and they'll basically give it right back to the county. So I think that probably explains a bit of it.
And it is important to piggyback on that, the performance and payment bond has been included in this $499,500.
And I'll echo what the county manager said as far as Mr. Ritter has worked, I think, tirelessly of trying to find a way to get this project within budget, and also have a project that the county will be very proud of. It's been called on several times to sharpen this pencil.
I will say, looking at the entire, what's been bid, because we hadn't accepted these bids, because like I said, the money's not in place, but we have the figures. The entire project is well within budget.
I think if you look at the overall project, things are coming along pretty good.
It's got a radar up.
Yes.
Well, what's it, it's more fun than this.
Yeah.
But I do think it's appropriate, I just agree with that.
Thank you, Tom. Derek, anything else?
Thank you, Tom. You're a no.
The archaeological monitoring.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, if you'll recall, I sent out an email that contained a memorandum of understanding, which basically what we ran into out there was at the meeting on May 31st, we authorized, Mr. Penland to go ahead and begin prepping that site for grading. And in doing that, he was going to have to remove some trees from the site. And the TRC wanted to be involved and wanted assurance that the county, as we were moving forward with this initial part of the project, this preliminary work, was to acknowledge there was going to be some archaeological services rendered, and wanted to be sure that the county was going to be, was going to acknowledge this memorandum of understanding between the State Office of Historic Preservation and the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. And so, in getting a consensus email from the commission, I went ahead and signed that memorandum of understanding, and we're currently awaiting on the other parties, the State Historic Office of Preservation and the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, to sign that to fully execute that memorandum of understanding. Since then, we have received from TRC, and it's been included in your agenda packet, and it is the title, the Archaeological Monitoring of Parker Meadows Recreational Park, Macon County, North Carolina. Basically what this is a contract that we're entering into with TRC. It's a not to exceed amount of $15,000 to do the site work necessary in this project. We have been, and it is important to note that this $15,000 is not set in stone for the entire project. We have been speaking with them. We have been made aware that it could be anything from between $15,000 and $70,000 in archaeological costs. And even those numbers are not set in stone, but in speaking with Paul Webb, those are numbers that he was comfortable with, depending on how much they find whenever they do an analysis of each of the hotspots out there at Parker Meadows. So in authorizing this, we basically we're going ahead, and we do have this $15,000 in the money that the county has right now, and this archaeological monitoring is part and parcel of the grading. So I would recommend that we go ahead and authorize me to enter into this contract with TRC.
So that's included in the grading?
No, this is a separate line item, and we budgeted prior to beginning the project. We were all under the agreement that we were going to take archaeological fees out of contingency.
So we need that as part of your motion, take this $15,000 out of the contingency budget in the capital project.
And I would include in your motion to ratify the county manager's actions and their intent to the memorandum of understanding.
Yes.
Set it out.
So moved. Motion second by Hagan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Let's see there. We have the consideration of the lease renewing regarding the Hudson Library, Mr. Attorney.
Gentlemen, y'all got a lease with the Hudson Library folks a few years back. That lease expires, I believe, sometime around the end of September of this year. However, it does contain 2 one-year renewal options. The renewal options will cost you a grand total of $1 each year. However, to exercise that renewal option, you need to give them appropriate notice under the terms of the lease within 90 days of the expiration, which means you need to give them that notice here in the next week or two. If you want to continue operations as they are right now with the Hudson Library, I would recommend you give that notice. I think it's also appropriate to probably make it a point to have someone from either the board or the county manager communicate with people at Hudson Library and talk about the future, because basically this is only going to carry you the next 2 years. And I think it's obvious that the relationship needs to continue beyond 2 years. I think it'd be appropriate to entertain a motion to,
There's no real changes to the lease.
there's no change at all. You're just exercising an option to renew it for 1 year. And you need to go ahead and put it on your calendar to do the exact same thing about this time next year.
Make the motion. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would ask that, just been tapes available there, that he knows all those folks, and This is a good partnership that we, somebody works very
Yeah,
hard.
I think this is a very good opportunity right now to go back and talk to those folks and kind of lay the groundwork for future relationships.
And there's still some of those folks that are, please take those when we started this process, so that'd be a good time.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. The county GIS website.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, what this is our GIS, in the mapping department, brought to my attention the fact that many other counties in our region and across the state, on their GIS website, they have a disclaimer before you can access that website, basically saying, this is not a survey, and the information on here we believe to be accurate, but it cannot be guaranteed as accurate. So basically what this is doing is it's a disclaimer that we can add to our website, that before people begin searching on that website and utilizing our mapping tool, that it's, again, this is not a survey, and that it cannot be acknowledged by anyone as a survey. It's just an informational tool.
I think it'd be a very wise move to make. I can tell you from having practiced law 31 years that there are a number of people that believe that those documents are basically the gospel on everything. And the truth is, they're very valuable records, but they're not 100% accurate. I think do a pretty good job putting those things together, but survey work, accurate survey work, field survey work is required to get 100% accurate.
I make the motion on it.
There was just, the Transylvania County has been included as an example in here. There are many others, but after the mapping department looked at it.
We got the problem. That's the sample we got there.
Yes, sir.
This is all there to do. We got a motion.
I mean, these people, we have to start thinking for everybody. We do all, everybody here understands that those records are not the gospel, but there are a lot of folks that see that because it's a government record, they assume that it's completely accurate. And it's important to let those folks know that there are limitations.
So, all right, what you're asking for is just a disclaimer saying this is.
The likeness not etched in stone.
I'll say it. Okay, we have a second. Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Dave. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Discussion regarding the quarter K resolution. I guess it's nothing that directly impacts us. As you know, this has been discussed for years. There's federal money that's been set aside for that, and they've stated it, all back and forth. And you see the resolution in there, basically our neighbors in, I guess it's Grave and Cherokee County, right there.
Brandon Swain.
And Cherokee, I guess,
Okay.
affected some.
They're wanting to get, I suppose, the county commissions and probably town boards to agree to this resolution. It basically said that money should be.
Having looked at it, it indicates that they're concerned that priorities have changed and that funding for Corridor K may have been put on the back burner once again because of priorities.
They're taking away and spending.
That's the big concern, is the representative to the transportation. To lose the 280 every time you see the extension to 26, you figure that's where the money's going to go to. So it's been 42 years, Mr. Chairman, in the process. So but on the TRC, we talked about it, and we just feel that this, any kind of, that we can show the support for the region, that you know, keep this $281 million where it's appropriate for, do that for extra purpose, so. That's
So
all
like
right.
that, let's start this coal and going to deal Gavin.
And it's gonna cost way more to do $281 million.
And they stopped, yeah.
So they must take it back.
Well, they've come from Washington, the Chamber of Commerce come and interviewed, reviewing on that, and they, about that, about how to help Graham County. And I think this is more or less just to say that, you know, if you're not gonna do corridor K, keep the $281 million, but it's North Carolina where it belongs, in the far west. That's what this is all about. And that's where they need it.
Are you making that motion?
I make a motion to approve the resolution in support of these counties.
Do we have a second? Motion. Bill, second by Tate, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did you vote for it, Rob? G, the fire suppression system.
Yes, this has been brought to my attention by Stacy Duffy from the Callaway School, just the need for an ANSI, an ANSI fire suppression system. What this will do is it'll make it a full commercial kitchen. And they were requesting $2,600 to do that. If you will look, they say that time is of the essence.
That's in your budget.
The budget did not include this funding for the fire suppression system of the kitchen. So,
The kitchen's been approved, Mr. Chairman, by all the folks we're going to do the, you know, the idea here is to get, the whole idea for this board and these folks that work so hard at K8 is to get it self-sustaining. This is a big step to do that, rent that kitchen up. And the ANSI system did not pass inspection. And this is, if you know anything about those systems, this is, you know, where you're a new ANSI system. This is just an update. And what's that, because the school had to have one. And but since the school, at that time, of course, the regulations been upgraded. So $2,600 is just upgraded with the ANSI system. Pass this on the thing lacking. USDA's approved the kitchen. These folks have worked hard to furnish it with, you know, we basically need to for a commercial kitchen.
It's very nice, we're down there, but
And they have a waiting list of folks, looking for rent the kitchen. And so if we can get lucky and like the lady over at Sequoia that made the cookies, so who knows? But I think this is one way that we can do that. If we could take this out, because they do need, you know, for this fall especially. So,
Derek, you recommend we do that?
Did they get that out of the budget? Oh, they're-
well, they're currently in the operating budget. We have reduced the operating budget, and the renovation budget is from $20,567 to $15,050. So it's pretty.
And their electricity, I know last year they spent $48,000 on the HVAC system. And I asked why we were doing that. I think Jackie said, well, they set 3 years by electrical savings. And I noticed the electricity they were budgeting this
it's
year.
oil saving.
Twice what it was last year.
The oil is worth saving money.
Electricity is flat. The electricity last year in the revised budget, excuse me, it's not flat. The electricity from last year was $13,483. This year, the department requested $22,400, and that request was honored by administration. So there is no reduction in the electricity.
I think they use that same line, well, the fuel, I'm trying to remember, they
That's
buy-
the same line.
It's the same line item, that they buy fuel oil as a backup. Or I think, what I understand, the electricity works, but when it gets dropped to a certain temperature, does the gas get in or something?
It hits a dual
Or
fuel.
vice versa, something like that. Yeah, it works that way.
So if you take it out of contingency, how much we have in contingency for?
your recommendation.
That's the pleasure of the board, boss.
I mean, it would be a lot easier to do it like that and go right through and have to redo the
Yeah,
whole
it would.
budget.
And just FYI, his original electricity budget for this year is 22.4. So what did you say we funded for next year at the same level?
Yes.
So we funded the same level.
Funded
22.4 for electricity in the current year.
last year was 13, right?
No, that's what, it was 22.4 original. It got amended down to 13 for 83, but it started off.
We was talking about that oil bill there, so how much did it reduce on it? You have figures on that?
It all comes out of that electricity line.
So it didn't go down any of it. Went up from last year.
I don't know. Again, I think they had to get it all started now. They just what, a couple months in
I mean,
there.
that's a good point.
And we've not went through a winter yet.
Yeah, we haven't went through a winter with it.
Plus, this has air conditioning with it, didn't it?
Well, they want to do this fire suppression now in the month of June, get it done by June 30th.
Well, as soon as possible. They won't
That's the
get-
thing, if y'all appropriate it now, it has to be done by June 30th, this year.
Yeah.
If not, we'll
You'll
have to
have
come to
work
you,
orders just
we'd have to
like
come
that.
to you in July and say, you need to reappropriate it.
I think they're ready to go for it. I know Greg Lumpkin was going out there. The guy from Ashby's, is the one that's been telling me, of course, they're working with Junior Teams too. To get it done.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
From contingency, right?
Yes.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Two no votes, motion passes. The consent agenda includes the minutes of May 13th to May 31st, budget amendment 183, tax releases, Avro tax collection report. We can handle that. Motion to approve consent agenda, we have a second.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. If you will refer to your packet, we do have 3 seats up on the Board of Health. Get to
Our
that.
sitting board members, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. We have a motion from Liaison Deacon and second by Commissioner Tate. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Kevin, that's 2 quick questions.
You sure can.
I was just looking to think that, we've got to have the budget orders prepared to present on the night for adoption.
Okay.
Do you guys have a consensus on the 2 districts that need some fire tax increases? Was that part of my ordinance?
Well, we asked Commissioner Tate to meet with the one and give you guys.
Yeah, no, Derek,
Or there.
I want them to, we'll recommend that we do, or I'm gonna recommend that we do, I'm gonna recommend that we do, Burlington, increase what they're requesting.
Not very.
Excuse me, Mountain Valley, I'm sorry, Burlington's here, not that, we'll recommend we get the park shelter, not the full increase, I think they're going from, well, 0.042 or 0.059, we'll recommend reviewing the budget, go to 0.055. Is that correct?
So from 0.042 to 0.055.
That's correct.
Now, Mountain Valley, their request was,
They're around total 8 right now, or will be close to that. The result of this. 7.7 something.
0.077.
Is that the new rate or current?
The current rate is 0.77.
Current, so 77. So what do they want?
They are going to.
.077 is .08. So the rest is 400.
0.077 to 0.08.
That's correct.
Okay.
so it'd be 3.
0.003.
Not 3 cents, 3.
3 100s. Clark Chapel's going from currently .042 A little .059, and the justification in my mind behind that is that not looking at the tax rate, looking at what their total receipts are, where they're running departments. If you look at similar departments, Otto, run similar call volume, Palisadia, West Macon, Cowee, they've been operating the past several years with significantly less overall funds. I can understand why they've been running like this everything.
You don't talk chapel.
Yeah, almost dependent upon donations.
So, Commissioner Payne, you said 4.2 to 5.5, is that right?
.042, .055, they're requesting a
And I did, everybody broke up, I called Warren Cave today. He concurred, I think, that would not allow them to pay their,
Yeah, we're looking at the contingency line, and some items that we bring down, up down. I think every 100 out of penny was giving them about 5,000 in additional revenue. So by going from a .059 to a .055, we're dropping them about $20,000 in total receipts.
Their overall, I looked at that too, Commissioner Tate, and in Charles Chapel, it looked to me like their overall district was about as large. It's like Cowee is the largest. Geographic, as far as miles go.
I'm speaking from the hip here, I can look up the numbers to be exact, but if you look at, let's use Cowee for example, they're operating on $280,000 budget, well, I don't know the fact, just saying roughly. You got a similar department like Chapel, and they've been operating at around 200,000 people. You understand why they've been struggling financially. I remember last year's meetings in here. There was a lot of confusion when they asked about tax increase last year. It didn't happen. I can't remember what happened.
Okay.
So what are you instructing? To .055.
Just the other question, the Cindy Gaddy asked for 1,125 for that Team Institute.
Good program. They included community hunting tools, my opinion.
Well, we supported them last time, we supported them for the summer, and it is a good project. And one reason that this board, I think, has always supported that is because the fact is, these kids from Mount Halen very seldom ask for anything other than what they have to have. I don't know how the board feels. I mean, they do take kids from Franklin, and I have been over there. It's a great, like Paul said, it's a great program. It's how the board feels. I would support, supporting these kids. I didn't know we was going to come back so quickly for the summer. I did not know that. I don't know whether they were going to come back. Yeah, it starts Monday.
It starts Monday, so that's why I wanted to bring it back up and see if you were wanting to fund it or not.
But I like to think we should have a discussion. I mean, I think that, I mean, it services those kids, some kids from Franklin. And what I have saw, it's a very productive, you can see they're good kids. And I think they do good things. But if you want to spend the money again, that's a discussion this board we can have right now.
I have some hindrance about it for two reasons. One is the quantity of kids that's producing. There's 200 or 100 seems to be different than 15. So that's the number we got.
No, there's 5, 9 to 9, 8.
And you have, it's not completely similar, but you have similar programs such as Gilliam's Promise that's operating without our funding support. That is a good program, absolutely. In my opinion, needs, this county needs to spend money, and it wants this county to spend money, and I think it's perfect.
I would make a request before the board action with it.
There's a motion.
If no motion, what happens? The guys will have the motion.
Do we need a closed session? Or anything, Jeff?
What about the fire tax? You need a motion on that?
No,
No.
it'll just be, I'll prepare it.
That'd be part of the resolution.
You just need to understand that ordinance is gonna look that
It's
way.
gonna look that way
And if
based
you're not
on the
happy
facts.
with it, you still need more time.
You better know now.
If you're unhappy with it, you might want to tell her that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I may, just for a moment. There were some questions at the last meeting about the community funding pool. Cindy Reed and Jennifer Jones are willing to continue to serve. However, Mary Ann Sloan and Hannah Mowers are not. So you can make those two appointments, obviously, if you want to. There still will be 2 seats to fill relative to that.
I'll make a motion to approve Ms. Reed and Ms. Jones.
Second.
Do we need to advertise? I guess if we need.
Actually, he's been working with Karen Wallace, and Karen is out doing some recruiting, meeting probably as we speak, to see if we can find a couple of others who might be willing to.
We're not lining up to get on that board.
That's hard, yeah. I was liaison to that.
They do a great job.
Motion.
I say
Motion and second. Any discussion about the two of those? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
And Mr. Haven had a question relative to the planning board appointments. Went back to your amendment that you made to the planning board appointments in February, I think, of 2012. And both Mr. Futrell and Mr. Gillespie, no problem doing that. So those things. No concern.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in regard to the question about the closed session, we have to have to wait for
Guess you don't want to lose that time, Jimmy?
Sounds good. That's all there is to
I'll
have.
survive.
it. Motion to recess?
Motion to read.
No, you want to actually recess to a certain date and time, like Monday at
Motion to recess for Monday, 5. That's what it is.
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Commissioners Board.
Somebody second that? All in favor of that, say aye. Thank you.
Do you know a Mike?
Put that on the.
I just want to put that on the web.
Oh, yeah, we'll get them.